Okay, we're recording. So good afternoon, guys. Today we're talking about a portion of module 3, right? That you probably have touched on already, the idea of tropes, right? And tropes are not an unfamiliar thing. But it's a very common term that we use, trope. And before we start, no, and I know I gave a definition of tropes in the module, but I wanted to ask you guys anyway, what do you think a trope is? Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
I guess I tend to associate I know hindi naman siya complete definition, pero I associate them with cliche.
Hmm.
Yun may nag-chat din, cliche.
Core just said the same thing, cliches.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why tropes are called cliches is because they recur, they're repetitive by nature, no? It's something that you see, and you see because you've seen it before. And that's why tropes work. The familiarity that you are able to experience when you see a trope is actually why people use tropes, right? Why is that the case? It shortens storytelling, right? When you're writing a story and you want to make sure that that people get the point quickly, one way to do it is by using familiar tropes. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is the writer is constrained in some way, whether by time or by space requirements or format requirements, and so he has no choice but to resort to something that the reader can immediately understand. Kasi baka wala siyang room to do a more detailed description of something, and so you use a trope. And to me, kasi really, it's really a way of getting the point across quickly, right? And so it could be these. It could be an image, meaning how something looks. It could be a figure of speech, like comparing something. Like a very common trope, diba, is a rose being used as a metaphor for love. That's a trope. Okay. Or a rhetorical device, meaning, let's say, a plot line or a storytelling device that you immediately recognize because um, you've seen it before. So an example would be the I watched the I'm sorry, wait. The a tragic ending for the hero, right? That and the tragic ending for the hero is set up long before that. You know he's going to die at the end by via the things that he does or the people that he talks. Yung ganon, right? So and the thing is, in this day and age, it's very difficult to actually be completely original, right? You can say that at a certain point, somebody has written something that you encounter, and that's part of the intertextuality of it. So and tropes, I think, function based on intertextuality as well. That you tropes are a product of it, right? But it is intertextual because uh, we have read and encountered so many texts, and so we can use these things in writing stories, and that's something that writers often use. Another thing that because tropes repeat, right? Um, it's also rhetorical, meaning it involves a an attempt for the trope to persuade you that it's legitimate, that it's something that you should be agreeing with so that the story moves forward. And this action is very unconscious. It's not something that the trope does explicitly. It's not insisting, saying, believe me. But it's something that the the acceptance of it is required for you to be able to recognize the trope, number one, and number two, to accept it. Some people who have said, like Cor said, it's a cliche. Some people will get turned off by a trope and will not accept it. Na yung, corny, right? And that kind of, and that's the risk that trope sometimes has, that it could backfire and therefore uh, be a reason for, let's say, rejection of a work. right? Here's and the last thing. I only have like a few slides here, but the last slide that I wanted to show you was like an example, right? Rain in movies is a trope, right? And rain in movies is a trope. Is it's used as a sexual, as a metaphor for sex. It can be used as danger. It can be used as love. It can be used as so many things, right? But the rain in movies is usually applied to something to add meaning to a scene, right? Then there's and I've seen this trope before. There's a wise and experienced heroic character, and then there is a younger, more arrogant upstart character, and they're usually paired together, right? And they're usually very their relationship is normally a rivalry at the start, and then they become less rivals and more, and they gain respect for each other by the, let's say, end of the story, right? The idea of the tortured villain, right? Where a villain is he's not just evil per se, but he's evil because of something that happened to him, right? So usually his family was killed, or, something like that, and uh, that becomes motivation for why he does what he does, right? Can you guys give me other examples of tropes that you may remember from, I don't know, movies or TV or uh, something? Obsessed artist, Whiplash, yes. Black Swan, yes. Oh, Black Swan, I love it. Partially because of uh, the two female stars, the same. Mila Kunis and Natalie Portman were excellent in that show. Yes. Some more tropes. The underdog, yes. The love triangle. Somebody saying the love triangle. Um, yeah, the and usually no, the love triangle is something that is used to complicate a character, right? Bite of an apple is a sign of dominance. Kevin, you have to explain that.
There came from this ano. So there's this documentary on Netflix. It's called Attack of the Hollywood Cliches.
Mm,
So hosted by Rob Lowe, and it's pretty much goes through all the tropes of the ano. So this one is basically like you see it in a lot of like older movies. It's parang like while a person is like like conversing with someone else, like they'll bite an apple and put it down on the table to show like a sign of dominance.
talaga?
Yeah, that's
Eh,
not, at least that's what I saw in the
But
documentary.
that's like that's never seen now. No,
Yeah,
so
it's mostly in the older, like the medyo older movies.
that's an interesting thing though. Like the act, no, and it's that's an interesting act because when you bite an apple, it's a noisy thing, right? At least the way they do it, right? It's a maingay yung pagkagat. So there's a crunch and then so I guess it can be a sign of dominance or arrogance, right? Oh, here, uh, Gab is saying is gay best friend a trope? Yeah, gay best friend or the duff, right? The designated ugly fat friend, the mean popular girl. Yeah, what's his Meta, The Matrix, and the Truman Show, Ready Player One, Ready Player One. Is it Met? Is it this? Yeah, it is. It's the same. But really, the ano there is I think for at least the Truman Show, Ready Player One, and The Matrix, the 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 idea being the common idea there being the existence of a different net, a different reality, And I guess the Truman Show in that sense is like that also. In the world that Truman lives in is artificial, right? The mean part of the girls. I read that. Core was saying boyfriend and girlfriend and find out they are childhood sweethearts pala. Oh, so like they haven't seen. I guess they haven't seen each other for a long time, and they fall in love again. And like, I think we're childhood sweethearts pala. Okay, yeah. K dramas. Dumb jock. Yeah. Right? The dumb jock. Um the dumb jock and the usually accompanying dumb cheerleader, right? The blonde cheerleader, right? Dumb blonde. That's a sad, diba? That's a sad stereotype though, I think. Na iba hair color has gotten associated with intellectual capacity. So if you're blonde, you're assumed to be not as smart as someone who isn't blonde, and I don't think that's fair. I mean, come on, hair color has nothing to do with how smart you are. Also, like I think the other one is redheads, right? Redheads are seen as dangerous somehow, unreliable, because of the color of their hair. And again, there's no relationship with them. Anything else? Dumb jock, dumb blonde, popular girl. The nerd, if you notice, the nerd in Scream, yeah, a lot of horror film tropes in Scream, true, right? Like the girl who always goes out first into the woods, rather foolishly, diba? The 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 jock friend, the quirky, right? The quirky, kind of edgy guy. And you notice why in horror movies usually the heroine is not the most attractive one, right? She's the one who looks sensible. She's the one who looks like she is not as she's smart, right? She looks like she thinks. Of course, saying the makeover scene, that's very typical, especially when there's, diba, in rom-com, for example, in some kinds of rom-coms where, um, yeah, yung the ugly the ugly duckling trope, right? Where the main character pala is beautiful, but she's made out to be ugly first, and then there has to be a big makeover scene. Her beauty is revealed, right? Cabin in the Woods. They talked about the sequence of deaths in horror. Yes, I like Cabin in the Woods. If you want to watch an intelligent horror movie, Cabin in the Woods was Joss Whedon, man, if I remember right.
Yun yung may conspiracy theory behind all the monsters, diba? Parang lahat sila nasa isang headquarters.
Yes.
Or iba. Okay,
Joss
okay.
Whedon nga. Joss Whedon nga. And I think, like, was Chris Evans there?
Chris Hemsworth, sir.
Chris Hemsworth, right? There you go. Chris Hemsworth was the jock, right? And yeah, it was the idea that kailangan pala yun because it was this ritual that they had to perform, making it. So the intelligent thing about Cabin in the Woods is it's one kind of horror that evolves into a different kind of horror, right? It starts out as this classic horror movie and becomes more Lovecraftian by the end of it. What else? Did you guys watch any movies over the break? What did you watch, Patricia? The Group of Lovable Misfits, yes. Lovable, attractive, strangely competent. So what movie did you watch, Patricia?
I watch movies and TV shows, so it's a mix. But I finished watching this horror film, The Somnambulist.
Okay.
Very, yeah. This is really old and
Yeah, I heard
it's
of it.
near Halloween, so I thought, why not?
Why not? Why not? Somnambulist. Yeah, I remember that one. That's an interesting one. I'm not too fond of. Oh, what's Honey Boy? Wait, John, what's Honey Boy?
It was directed. The screenplay was by Shia LaBeouf, and it was about
I
his life as like someone who suffered with PTSD.
Is this the one uh where he had uh, uh, I can't say autistic person with them or something like that, or
I think
different.
so. Pero parang different. Pero it was mostly like his dad who is super like he was from jail and all. Tapos he has this ego problem. So um he'd abuse him and like verbally and physically. So that's why, which explains a lot, honestly.
And I think it's kind of autobiographical for him, right?
Yeah, it was.
Because that's kind of what AS started Ted Lasso. Haha, look at that. That's a rabbit hole. It's good though. Ted Lasso is
Yes.
actually an entire collection of tropes, right? Ted Lasso is the first episode of Ted Lasso is just all trope, right? From Ted Lasso himself, the bumbling, good, good intentioned coach to the quiet but knowledgeable assistant coach, the angry veteran player, the arrogant young star player, the evil boss, uh, the sniveling assistant to the evil boss. Diba? It's all tropes. And what's clever about Ted Lasso is then it starts reversing those tropes slowly throughout the season. The power of friendship trope. Yeah, that's really it's common, especially with the wait, Core. What's manic pixie girl and what's manic pixie girl? Pixie dream girl. Core. What's manic pixie dream girl? I don't know what that is. It's a quirky girl who the main guy finds over. Ah, okay. Okay, I get. Absent parents. Absent parents is yeah, I don't think that's as much a trope as it is just something that is common in the States, right? But your parents are not there.
Oh, sir. Mine was mainly based on like anime shows, like
Which
the
one?
MC, like Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah.
Parents of the main character were there or were absent in throughout the show, or
For most of the show.
or like
The,
My
the dad
Hero.
the
The
dad
dad
shows up at
isn't.
the end, right?
But then like the mom
Yeah.
at the start she was absent.
Yeah. My hero, well,
The dad,
the dad isn't. The dad isn't there.
but then the mom's there.
There's no explanation yet on why the dad isn't there. No?
Yes.
He's just not there.
Yes.
But that's interesting. I don't think that's a trope though, and I don't know how that affects like for those anime things. I don't know if that's a relevant thing in the story. Like for my hero, the dad isn't there, but I don't know if right now at least parang wala pa siyang importance to the character of
The main
Deku.
character.
I
Yes.
don't know.
But then I think
Yeah.
for Full Metal, it was pretty important.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
that's why they
The
became
dad was one of the
alchemists.
reasons, right?
And like the mom, since they wanted
Yes.
to revive her,
Yes.
that's what really pushed them.
To do what they did, right? It was the mom's death that caused them to do what they did.
Yes.
There, okay, for somebody saying for Disney, evil step parents, or yes, evil step parents. Evil step parents, close. It's not just Disney. I mean, you have a lot of telenovelas that use the same trope: the evil mother, the evil stepmother, the Cinderella story, right? The whole idea of inaapi yung main character by parents or step parents. In the Philippines, that's very popular actually. I mean, if you watch uh, the soap operas of the 1980s, you had a lot of evil step parents and suffering heroine uh, storylines. any kind of. I don't know if there still is. I don't really watch. I don't watch a lot of TV anymore, but I don't know if it's continued. Right. A trope that isn't common in the Philippines, at least not as bad as it gets in other countries, is the superhero level main character for action movies, for example. Right? I think the one of the worst, or what not the worst, but one of the most pronounced expressions of this is if you've seen Indian films, right? There are some Indian films where the main character shouldn't be able to do what he does. He's not supernaturally, he shouldn't be supernaturally strong or anything. And he does things that are just physically impossible. Right? Like I remember this guy who, I remember one where the good guy had a banana and he defeated someone with a gun. Oh, I saw that one. That girl gets shot at the end, and she talks and talks and talks, and it's like, oh, realistic writing there. I don't know. I don't think that's a trope. Although I think the idea of that kind of hero, right? The legendary level hero is something that is in their culture. Here, we have that to a degree, but the 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 characters here are still human, right? At least, the closest we ever got to that level of characterization was with Fernando Poe Jr. Really, where his characters seem to be, just not supernatural, but just so much better, so much tougher uh, than the other people he was with, or the other characters that he was with. But that's kind of faded away, right? And in truth, naman, Cardo doesn't die in the Provinciano. But then kasi he's the Provinciano. If he dies, there's no more space. Um, and Provinciano is an FPJ film, right? So, and FPJ can't die. That was what I told you about that. But he can't die because things happen if FPJ dies in movies. So, I guess we're carrying on. But like and yeah, there, unlimited bullets. That's another weird thing that we have, right? That for some reason, our action movies can't seem to count the number of bullets inside the gun. But that the hero will always have. Why don't you ever reload? Why is that never a thing? Wala lang. It's not important to the story, right? I guess. I watched the latest James Bond movie the other day, see No Time to Die. And Bond is just a chock full of tropes also, right? The and I think some of them are really old and not exactly politically correct. Like he doesn't treat women well. Although this Bond actually treats women pretty well. They talk in the middle of a gunfight. Right? They chat. Um, the gadgets. I think the biggest Bond trope is the gadgets, the silly gadgets, right? And there's a term for it. It's called plot vouchers, right? Where for some reason James Bond will be given a gadget that he will of course need later on in the story, but otherwise would have been really impractical other in any other sense. I remember there was this an older Bond film where he was given a ball pen that explodes, right? And so he's wearing it, carries the pen the whole time. And then finally he gets held up and he's at gunpoint. And that's the only time he can actually get the ball pen and then throws it as a grenade. And I'm like, wow, really, you've been carrying the ball pen the whole movie just so you can do that. It's again silly. Um, but then that's part of the fun of these movies. And the fact that we see all of these common things, other things that can be tropes are also like plot lines, right? The makeover, the love triangle, as you guys said, the buddy movie, right? Where two people are put together, they don't necessarily like each other, but they have to do something together, and they become best buddies. Um, what else? right? All these storylines that have become common, which is you realize a lot of the stuff you watch is tropes, and the question now is really how well does a storyteller use the tropes rather than how original, quote unquote, a work is, right? For example, now and we'll go back to Squid Game because it's a different culture, right? What tropes do you recognize from Squid Game?
Does it count if it's like Hunger Games type trope na
Yeah,
parang may
the storyline, the
yun.
elimination contest, right? That's one. That's one. I think the tough girl, right? The
And
tough,
then also parang
the genius, yeah.
yung akala mo doing well in life pero hindi pala. Does that count?
Meron ganun. Meron ganun. Right?
Ah,
The genius, the
Bully gangster
sorry,
or the bully gangster.
the bully gangster, divorced parents. Divorced parents. Yes, divorced parents. The lost sibling. Wait, who's the lost sibling? Huh? Who's the lost sibling? I don't remember that one. Yeah. Okay, yes, the masked man. Right. The masked man. The elder, I was about to say, right? The elder, the mysterious elder, not just underestimated, but the mysterious elder. Um, who is there, and then yung pala, he's important pala in the game and or the show in the story, and you think the whole time it's just the lovable foreigner. Nostalgia to evoke fear, yeah, those games though. I actually wonder sometimes it would be really interesting to see a Squid Games done using Filipino games, right? What games can we actually use uh, and turn into Squid Games? I think one of them is Patintero. Exactly, Patintero is almost the same as Squid Games. Another one is Tumbang Preso, right? I don't actually understand the mechanics of tumbang preso other than you're throwing a slipper to hit a can, right? Something like that. Um, what else? Sipa. Ooh, yeah. Imagine kicking Chinese garter, correct? Right? Imagine all these games. So if we could actually license Squid Games, it would be interesting. Kaya lang, ang mangyayari dito parang provinciano rin yun, hindi kitigil. That I think one of the things that makes Korean shows good is they have clear points where they end, unlike in the Philippines where they just don't. Right? I think like Provinciano should have ended a long time ago, but because it's so popular, how could it end it? Right? Naging career na siya ni what's the name of the actor? Coco no. What's the name of the actor playing that Cardo?
Coco Martin?
Coco Martin, okay, it's Coco Martin na. Right?
Ah.
But Coco Martin is now just that. He's never done any other projects now. So, na stereotype na siya as, that. And not a bad gig and you have a career. But if you were an actor, wouldn't you want to kind of do more? An emerging trope that seems to be becoming popular is multiple versions of the same person. Multiple versions of the same character. You're gonna see it. It's happened. It's going to happen again. Right? It's happened in Spider-Man, into the Spider-Verse. It's gonna happen again apparently in the next Spider-Man movie. But the idea of alternate worlds, alternate universes, multiple versions or different versions of the same character seems to be something that is becoming a common trope, especially in more fantasy oriented or non-realist uh, non-realist shows. I do appreciate therefore the presence of things like anime and Japanese and Korean shows because it broadens uh our encyclopedia, excuse me, of ideas. And I do appreciate that. Do you guys have any questions? Oh wait, is cultural representation counted as a trope? Hmm. I don't know if it's a trope, but it is around, right? The and it's not just cultural representation really, but diversity, diba? You will have people of diverse backgrounds being put in various stories. In Western kasi, in Western in the United States, that's more a function of the political correctness that's been happening, right? The demand for diversity, people of color and gender uh, are putting pressure on producers to give representation to these minorities, these groups of people. That's in the States, right? But like here, I don't know, right? I don't know. I mean, like for example, no, here there could be homosexual characters, but a lot of the time the homosexual character is still comic relief rather than a genuine representation of that segment of society. That's a trope here, right? The funny gay friend or the funny gay character. And some people get offended by it. It really depends on how the gay character is handled. There's also in the Philippines, no, the smart ass help, right? The smart ass assistant or maid or staff member who is also comic relief normally. Right? So there. Any other questions about tropes? Yes, Cor.
Hi po. I was just wondering if so because like bouncing off of that cultural representation, technically stereotypes or for example, like I'm Chinese, so like how Asians are portrayed in movies, would that also be a trope? Or it's more of a stereotype and is
It
there a
is.
difference?
It's a stereotype, but it can be a trope. It
Ah,
depends.
okay.
Right. I think it's how they're shown. So that's a tough one. The Chinese person is usually in at least in Western films. Now. The Chinese person is usually the smart one,
Yes po.
right? Diba?
Glasses, black
The
hair.
glass, yeah, the dowdy outfit, right?
Yes.
The dowdy outfit, the glasses, the one who's good in math,
Yeah.
right? Usually it's the math person.
Yes.
And that's both stereotype and trope. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Jumanji, for example, is an example of tropes.
Oh.
Diba? The four characters.
Oh, I
See,
haven't watched it po.
oh they're tropes, right?
Nice.
The very classic tropes, and the idea there is how do you play with them. So
Mm.
but yeah, jumping off that cultural representation. Yeah,
Thank you po.
tropes. Yeah, you're welcome. So, any other questions? I hope you guys are doing well. Um, wait. If there are no other questions, I'll stop recording first.